is Hannah Aguirre. I'm on the board of Tenants and Workers United. We're one of the co-sponsors for this event tonight. And we'd like to take a little bit of time to introduce some of the other co-sponsors as well. So, Ms. Adrienne Fikes with PLTI.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adrienne Fikes, and I'm the Executive Director of the Parent Leadership Training Institute of Alexandria. We are a program here in Alexandria. We are starting our 10th year in the city of Alexandria, and we train parents and caring adults to understand the process of democracy, how it works here in Alexandria, and how you can use your voice to influence the public policy decisions that are being made by elected officials and hired officials that are impacting your families and children. So, you have a flyer on your seat. Please take a look at that. Please look at our website. My business cards are in the back. We would love to talk to you if you are interested in getting involved with PLTI. Thank you so much.
Now we have Ms. LaDonna Sanders with ACPS.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is LaDonna Sanders, and I am the president of the Alexandria chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as the NAACP. Here in the city of Alexandria, we serve as a civil rights advocacy group. We advocate on behalf of populations who are disenfranchised and who are discriminated against. At this point, some of the things that we have been working on across this 2015 year is improving our better relationships with the Alexandria Police Department. We have also had some sit-downs with Alexandria City Public Schools just to talk about how our students are served inside the school, how our parents are being served, and so I look forward to continuing to do the work on behalf of you and your families, and we hope that you all will join us at a meeting. We meet at Charles Easton Recreation Center on the 4th Thursday of every month at 7 o'clock p.m. And I'll be around this evening, and we'll look forward to talking to each and every one of you.
All right, I'd like to let everybody know, is there anybody that needs interpretive services in Spanish, Amharic, or Arabic? No? All right. So I want to remind the candidates that we are using interpreters tonight, and if you can, try to speak just a tad bit slower, just so that our interpreters can keep up with everything. The format for tonight, we will have two types of questions. We will have a quick lightning round, where the candidates will have a yes or no sheet, where they'll raise to say yes or no to the answer. And we will also have a 60-second open-ended type question as well. And we're going to start tonight with introductions from the 5 candidates. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. And we are still waiting for Ms. Campbell. She should be on her way, and she will be joining us as soon as she gets here. So she would be starting this off tonight, but we're going to go ahead and skip her for now and start with Ms. Dillard.
Yeah. Good evening, Alexandria. I'm Daria Dillard. I have been a resident of Alexandria for over 10 years. I'm a teacher, I'm a parent, I have a 9-year-old, she goes to Samuel Tucker Elementary School. I've been a community member here. I have worked on the stakeholder committee, ACPS stakeholder committee, and I'm very excited for that, the vision that's coming out for 2020. I am running this year, I'm running for this campaign because I want to get involved. I'm a teacher, I've been in the classroom, I see how policies affect our students and our teachers. I am a parent. I have been a PTA member, and for advocating for my daughter, I've seen exactly what our parents are missing in terms of advocating for their own children. And in my work as a PTA member, I've actually had the ability to work with our parents and make sure that they're getting the things that they need and create programs to build our community and make it stronger. So I'm looking forward to speaking with you and answering questions tonight, and thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Rainey Gentry. I also am a parent with my twins are now in middle school in ACPS. The 3 things that I feel I want to center on for my time on the school board are accountability, access, and achievement. For accountability, I want to make sure that we're using really excellent data-driven reports and getting good information so that we can make sound decisions about what type of policies and programs we need to keep, which ones we should get rid of, and how we can use the best use of our budget. For access, I want to make sure that regardless of what school you go to in ACPS, your children are getting excellent teachers, programs, and facilities. And finally, for achievement, we all desperately want to make sure that we are closing that achievement gap. That has to be a huge priority for us. I want to make sure each kid gets that chance. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Pat Hennig. I'm on the board now. I'm on the first elected board. I've been a West End resident for more than 35 years. I was a parent, a special ed kid, PTA member and officer in 3 schools, served on 4 school board advisory committees, and now a grandparent with kids probably coming back here in 2 years. I want to make sure our schools are where they should be. Like Ramey, accountability is very important to me because as a corporate controller, I have to deal with federal and state regulations every day, so I do keep an eye on what's going on and is it being done correctly. I want communication. I hear from parents that no one will respond, nobody will answer. If you call me or you email me, anyone will tell you, I will respond. And if I'm not the right person, I'll get the other person to it. And transparency, you need to know what's going on. Everyone needs to know what's going on, including the people who do not have children in the school system.
Mr. Lewis?
Good evening, my name is Chris Lewis. I'm currently serving as Vice Chair of the school board, and I'm a 4th generation Alexandrian, and I ran 3 years ago. I'm running for re-election because I love this city, and I think that the strength of our city is based largely on the reputation of our schools. My priority is very simple. I will continue in a second term to be a leading advocate for reducing overcrowding in our schools and doing smart redistricting. I will focus on ensuring that we are reforming our middle schools and implementing changes based off of the feedback of parents and teachers. I'll demand accountability from our administrators to continue closing the trust deficit that we have. I will sustain the improvements that we've already made in fiscal management practices. And I'll continue to have an open community dialogue to engage community members so that before we make big policy decisions, that we're talking to the community and getting their feedback and buy-in before we move forward. I've built a reputation as an independent voice on the board, and I hope to have your vote. Thanks for coming out tonight.
All right, so we're going to start off with some of these open-ended 60-second questions. Candidates, we have 60 seconds. Around here, we'll be keeping time. We're going to talk real quickly about achievement gap. ACPS has made several strides in test scores. However, when it comes to the special education gap group, ACPS, as a division, has consistently failed to reach the established annual measurable objectives. Some would argue that we are not adequately serving our special needs students and parents. Do you believe students with special needs and their parents are being adequately served within ACPS? And we will start with Ms. Dillard.
Okay.
Yeah, we could, since we just started the first question, we'll wait for Ms. Campbell. Welcome, Ms. Campbell.
I apologize to everyone. My son was in a car accident this afternoon, and I had to leave him to wait for the tow truck himself, but he's a big boy.
It's okay.
He's okay. His car may be totaled,
That's okay.
but he's okay.
Get another car.
That's exactly right.
Ms. Campbell, we just finished giving introductions. If you're ready, you can have 60 seconds for your introduction.
Okay. My name is Ronnie Campbell. I'm incumbent. I've been serving on the school board since 2006. I have 3 children, all that have gone through ACPS. My son was the last one that graduated in 2014. I have my oldest daughter was a tag student in the system, and my second daughter has disabilities and received disability services for special education all through Alexandria, and that's one of the main reasons I ended up getting involved. And I hope that I have the answers that you want tonight, and if you don't get them tonight, I will talk to you on the side.
And just so you know, Ms. Campbell, that purple sheet in front of you, we've added a 60-second rebuttal that you may use once, anytime throughout the forum. And Ms. Sanders here, she's holding up a yellow sheet for when you have 10 seconds left and a red sheet for when you start. So I just read the first question, so I'll repeat it one more time. And the first question was, ACPS has made several strides in test scores. However, when it comes to the special education gap group, ACPS as a division has consistently failed to reach the established annual measurable objectives. Some would argue that we are not adequately serving our special needs students and parents. Do you believe students with special needs and their parents are being adequately served within ACPS?
Short answer to that is no. As a parent with a child receiving special needs services here, she graduated with a first grade reading level, which is not acceptable. One of the reasons I've been continually serving is trying to make some changes. We have made some changes. This year alone, I advocated to have a special ed teacher be one of the people at the Parent Resource Center so that you can get real answers in real time. She knows the regulations for the state. I think it's imperative that we have someone with that kind of certification in that position to help our families. And also, I've also advocated to get tutoring after school for our special ed students. That's something we haven't had before. If the student wanted to get additional services after school for tutoring, it wasn't happening because the teachers weren't certified that did the after school tutoring. So that is another change that's happened with special education services. Instead of waiting till the end of the year, where if their goals aren't met, is that going to stop?
You can finish your sentence.
Or if their goals aren't met, they can get services in the summer. I wanted them to get services all throughout the year when they need it the most. Thank you.
No, our students are not. Our special ed students, especially if our scores are as low as they are. Achievement gap means that there's a gap in opportunity, so that means that we're not meeting those needs. I would like to see, and as a teacher in the classroom, I know it's very hard, especially when there's overcrowding, which ACPS is currently suffering from. We're not able to meet all the needs of our students. Instead of just meeting the requirements, I think we should be exceeding them. We should be individualizing the approach that we're taking for each one of our students so that every single student is being met where they are and then they're being pushed forward. It's not acceptable. Ronnie's right that her daughter graduated on a first grade reading level. They should have taken her daughter, and made sure that she was able to read and pushed her through the system as she's achieving and meeting every single goal that they're setting for her.
No, I'm going to hear that a lot today. So let me talk about some of the ways that I think we can help close that gap. One thing that I have found as an avid viewer of school board meetings and somebody that's really dug into a lot of the data and developed a good working relationship with the Special Education Advisory Committee is that we have been really lacking good, solid data on what is actually happening. You know, we know in a general sense, we knew because we kept seeing that these students weren't achieving at the levels that we want them to, but no one could really give good answers why, and that's not acceptable. We need to hold them to really digging in and figuring out what's happening with this particular program. Is it working? Yes. Keep doing it. If not, we need to move on to something else.
Well, everybody's correct. The short answer is no, it's not working. And it hasn't been working since the previous administration arrived. We've had, and I've used this before, Rainey's going to start laughing, we've had a culture of complacency in the central office with regard to special education, and the person who was placed in charge was never in a classroom, none of which is acceptable. I have confidence that there's going to be some changes now since Dr. Crowley has brought in Dr. Teresa Warner, who is going to be terrific. She's actually been in the buildings. The teachers are nodding their heads over it. She's been in the buildings. She's looked at the programs. She will be talking with parents. Dr. Crowley is a special ed person as well. But I will say this, Kevin. been a special ed parent, now being a special ed grandparent. Don't stop talking to people if your children are not getting what you think they should get. They hated to see me come in central office.
Thank you, Mr. Woods.
I completely agree with Pat. The basic answer is no. Our special ed students have not been served well, but we have an opportunity right now with our new superintendent, like she said, and our new special ed leader, Ms. Warner, Dr. Warner, to make a big change here. And to move from a system where we were really just looking at where we're in compliance with the lowest bar for special ed students, or are we actually seeing results for all of them? So we're expecting actually as a board, even before the new board comes on, a presentation from Dr. Crawley and his new special ed leader on their new approach for special education. What I'm going to be looking for in that presentation, I'm going to be looking for them to show that they have a whole systematic approach that looks at what failed, what was not working before, and how they're going to fix it. But they also need to come up with a plan to help students that have not been served over the years. So while we may be fixing our entire school division's approach to special ed, we have students in high school that are way behind, and we have to have a plan to catch them up. It's only fair to those students.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. All right, so moving on to our next question. Some ACPS schools have had accreditation problems over the past few years. What can be done to turn around failing schools, specifically when looking at gap groups that are underperforming? We'll start with Ms. Dillard.
So, as a teacher in the classroom, I know firsthand how hard it is when you are in a school system or in a school that is accredited with warning. There's so much work. Everyone's coming at you from other angles, and one of the things that I want to make sure that we're doing is that we're not overwhelming our teachers. So we want to make sure that we're supporting them. How do you turn around a failing school? That's a million-dollar question. But one of the things you want to make sure that you're doing is you're evaluating the programs that we're putting in the schools, making sure that the data shows that that is actually a program that's working, it's going to improve student achievement. I love what has happened at Patrick Henry. That school has jumped 20 percentage points. That's phenomenal. That principal took an approach that every single child can succeed and made sure that we looked at what every individual child needed in order to be successful. So to turn around a failing school, that's what we need to do. We need to have strong leadership, support our teachers, and make sure we're looking at the needs of every single child.
So I believe that the principal leadership is absolutely key for some of these schools. If you look back over the history of the last several years, some of the schools that have had the most churn at the principal level are some of the ones that we've had the most struggle with. I do think, to a certain extent, that has to do with, as Ms. Dillard was suggesting, the sort of enormous pressure and a lot of outside influences on that. But at the end of the day, it is essential that we have a really excellent principal who can develop a really strong relationship and a rapport with the teachers so that they can all work together and really buckle down and figure out what is going to work to bring that particular school forward. And then when things are starting to work and go in the right direction, and we've seen that both from Patrick Henry and Jefferson Houston, we need to let it happen. We need to just continue to nurture that and not keep trying to fiddle with it, because it risks the progress that we're making.
Is that?
Prior to the arrival of the previous superintendent, every school in Alexandria was accredited. That's proof book. It's on the Virginia State Department of Education website. Every school is accredited. When you have tremendous turnover in school leadership, when you have tremendous turnover in teachers and in paraprofessionals, when there is no support for them coming from central office, when there is nothing but, oh, that program didn't work, let's try another one, sort of like throwing spaghetti on the wall to see if it's done. And constant change. I think Jefferson Houston was not considered to be a school by the prior administration, it was a laboratory. Let's see if something's going to work. What's needed is consistency, professionalism, and total and complete support for the staff. And we need to know And if there is a problem, it will be resolved.
So we've made great progress actually in the last 3 years in our accreditation issues, and we have the scores to prove it. You can look across the city and see the improvement in scores in every single school, especially in the last school year. So we should learn from what's worked. Folks have already mentioned some of the things that have worked. I think it starts with a strong school culture that certainly is led by the principal. We saw that at T.C. Williams, we saw that at Patrick Henry, we saw that at Cord Kelly, and we need to see it in places like Hammond Middle School. We need a principal that sets the direction and a vision, and that the teachers can buy into, and that the community can buy into, and that they can get behind. When you have that, then you can start to do the hard work that's happened in some of these success stories of individualized instruction, using data to make sure you're catching every student and no one slips through the cracks. We also need to make sure that there's enough resources. That starts with money, but it doesn't end with money. It means that we have adequate spaces for our teachers so that they have class sizes that are reasonable so they can do the tough work of dealing with students at different levels. And then I mentioned this, but community support is tremendously important. We have to continue to rally parts of our community, even those who don't have kids, behind the changes that are already happening in a positive direction in our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Ms. Campbell.
Okay. One of the things that I think would help the gap is to have the summer schools come back. One of the things I spearheaded this year was that we needed to have summer school for those kids that need year-round schooling. Now that doesn't mean a modified calendar. I'm not talking about having school in session for 10 months or 11 months. I'm talking about support services all year. We brought that back this year with our superintendent. We brought back summer school for those kids in need. What that means is if a principal knows that there's certain students that would benefit from having support in the summer for at least a month, so there isn't that gap where they're not doing anything, or they're playing, on their phones, or they're watching TV most of the summer. We want to give them something to get them engaged and get them excited about learning. The summer school we brought back required additional professional development for the teachers, but it also gave the kids hands-on learning, doing programs, working as teams with other students. They did science projects. It's very successful.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Just so you know, if you're having trouble hearing, there's some seats up here if anyone would like to move to the front. So the next round, we're going to have a couple of quick lightning round questions. There will be 3 lightning round questions, so please have your yes, no's ready. And we'd like to start off by asking, and if you would please hold it for at least 5 seconds. Let's say 10 seconds, just so that everybody has time to see what they do. All right, and some of these are yes and no on purpose, so don't worry, there's stuff coming afterwards. Question number 1. Do you support the creation of a task force or committee